Yo, what is going on, guys? Toxico Cereal here, and welcome back to another Brawl Stars video. Today we are doing yet another tier list, but one that actually was suggested to me based on one of my more recent videos comments. And we're going to be ranking every single brawler based on if both star powers could be used at the same time in the same game. Now, I actually think this is such a good ranked modifier. Like, why not have a game or a modifier in ranked that both brawlers could have both star powers on? There's a lot of potential with this, and I feel like some could fluctuate a lot. And I actually think this is a really good idea, so that's why I am doing this tier list. So thank you to this guy for commenting this idea. And if you have other ideas that you want me to do, I've had a lot in the past, but those are the past. And I want some new ideas. So if you have told me an idea in the past that I have not done, comment it again. I will look into it and maybe see if I can actually make a tier list out of it. So there have been a couple other suggestions that I've seen as well, but I want to do the ones that make most logical sense that Brawl Stars would actually put into the game, this being one of them. I definitely can see Brawl Stars doing a ranked modifier where both star powers could be used at the same time. Now, it might be a little bit more tricky because on the more casual play, not many people are going to have both star powers, which might be a downfall, but it doesn't make that big of an impact on majority, but it would be a nice feature, so this is why I really like this idea. But without further ado, let us get into the ranking. Before we get into the video, this video is sponsored by the brand new channel that me and all of my friends have created, Next Gens. Next Gens is a multiplayer gaming channel with me and all of my other friends that are listed on the screen right here. The first video is this Wednesday, October 23rd at 4 p.m. CST. We're going to try to get about one video in a week, but it's a brand new channel that we are finally getting to work, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have not seen it already, it is in the link. Please go subscribe to it and get ready for the first video. This is going to be a blast. But anyways, back onto the video. Starting off with Shelly. So Shelly has Shell Shocked and Band-Aid. Shell Shocked slows the opponent for, I think it's 2 seconds. I think they nerfed it, because it used to be 4.5, but they nerfed it. And then you have Band-Aid, which constantly gives her healing, so Shelly's going to be a menace when she connects her super, but she's also going to have a little bit more HP at the same time. So combine that with the Clay Pigeons gadget, and you have a deadly combo right there along with healing. She's going to be able to survive a little bit longer or get more value. So I think this is a decent combo. It's not like game-breaking by any means, but I think I see the great potential there. So B tier. Next up, we have Nita, and Nita's star powers both rely on her super, but combining them could be absolutely game-breaking. You've got Bear With Me, which heals Nita, and Nita heals Bruce. For every time they connect an attack, they heal the opposite. And you've got Hyper Bear, which just completely decimates the high safe, but also can be insane, especially compared to the stun gadget. It's going to be a lot of healing for Nita, and if Nita can keep Bruce alive with the Hyper Bear, oh, that's dangerous. The only problem is the bear has to connect with the brawler, and against tanks or with the stun gadget, that's going to happen, and that's just going to be a lot of healing going back and forth between them. So I absolutely see the potential here. I don't think it's good. I just don't think the only reason it's not S tier is it relies deeply on the super. But it doesn't take Nita to get that super, and with the hypercharge, that's some great value potential right there. Next up, you've got Colt. And Colt has 2 decent star powers. It's really a mix-up on which one is better. But now you have the ability to move at a very fast speed and have the longest range in the game, basically. That's a great combination right there. And I can easily see Colt being one of the better brawlers, because not only is he going to be very challenging to hit, but he can also kind of counter his longer ranged archetypes by literally just juking them and chipping them away slowly. So this is another great combo. Don't think it's absolutely game-breaking, but it's still a great combo. Next up, you've got Bull, and Bull has Berserker and Tough Guy. So basically, he's going to have a faster reload speed, and he's also going to have a shield. So it's going to be a lot of combination right there with Bull. So I actually see a decent potential with Bull. So I'm going to give him B tier as well. Next up, we've got Brock, and Brock has 2 decent star powers. He's got more rockets, and then rocket number 4. Most of the time, you really don't have rocket number 4 unless you're playing him in bounty or knockout. But more of the time, you want to use more rockets on a high safe. Brock's star powers aren't like crazy broken by any means, and they really don't combine well together unlike some of the other star powers. But they're 2 decent star powers, but I don't think it's going to make Brock that much of a change. So I'm going to put him in the C tier. Next up, we've got El Primo. And El Primo has 2 star powers that both rely on his super, which can take a lot of time to get. He has more damage, and then he can also get more speed. So not only can he confirm kills with his El Fuego star power, but he can also get the speed boost with his Meteor Rush to charge his next super or score a goal in Brawl Ball, for example. They definitely kind of combine synergy together, but I don't think it's like crazy good. So for me, I'm gonna put him in the C tier as well with Brock. Could be B tier. Next up, we've got Barley. So Barley has 2 really good star powers. You've got the healing from his first star power and the extra damage from his second star power. So both are literally going to be combining with his main attack. So he's always going to be dealing extra damage, and he's always going to be healing from his main attack. So it's just 2 great synergies overall. It's going to make Barley a lot more of a threat. So I could see this one being at least B tier. So that's where I'm going to put him. Next up, we've got Poco. And Poco has 2 good star powers. You've got the Capo, which benefits from the main attack from healing his teammates. And he also has Screeching Solo, which can damage any Brawlers. They kind of contradict each other. One heals his teammates, one damages enemies. So, but there's still 2 good star powers, but I don't think it's going to be great because they don't really synergize well together. But I'm going to put him in the C tier because they're good star powers. Like, it'll help him out. And lastly, in the rare brawlers, we have Rosa, and Rosa has Thorny Gloves and whatever the bush one's called, but she's going to be healing all the time in bushings along with dealing extra damage with her super. And Rosa gets super pretty constantly, especially on a bushy map. So they are very good synergy together because Rosa does lack a bit of damage for a tank, but with Thorny Gloves, she deals a lot of damage, and it is very strong. So for me, I'm going to put it in the B tier. Next up, we've got Jessie, and Jessie has Energized, one of the better star powers in the game, but she also has Shocky, which absolutely is not good. Shocky is a terrible star power, and because of this, she's really only going to benefit from Energized. Like, Shocky in casual play is decent, but in competitive play, which is what I usually rank my tier list off of, it's going to be terrible. So, just because it's okay in casual, I'll put her in the D tier, but otherwise, she would definitely be F tier. Next up, we've got Dynamite. And Dynamite has Dynajump, which is very fun for Dynamite mains. But let's be real, majority use Demolition. But Dynamite does have his use case where if he's going against an aggro and he's by a wall, he can Dynajump out. And he also will have extra damage with his super every single time. So he could be a little bit more defensive, especially with Dynajump. So for that reason, I'm going to give him a little bit of credit and put him in the C tier. Like, he will definitely benefit from it. Next up, we've got Tick. And Tick has Well-Oiled, which will constantly heal him, but he also has Automatic Reload, which will give him a permanent reload speed buff the whole game, also giving him the ability to heal up after 1 second of not taking damage. It's going to be very annoying, because Tick's going to be able to heal up and then spam shots. The only way you're really going to be able to counter him is with anything aggressive and pray he doesn't have his super or his gadget that gives him the knockback. So I could easily see this being at least a B tier. Next up, we've got 8-Bit, and 8-Bit has 2 star powers that both rely off his super, but they're 2 good star powers. You've got Boosted Booster, which will give him and his whole team an extra damage boost while sitting in the turret, and that's basically how you play 8-Bit, is you sit in that turret and just destroy. But then you've also got Plugged In, which will give him movement speed. So not only that, it'll be more challenging to kill 8-Bit himself. So that's just a deadly combo, and I'm going to put him in the A tier. Next up, we've got Rico. And Rico has Super Bouncy, which is a permanent damage buff with his bounces, which most of the time you bounce a shot with Rico. But if you get low HP and you're going against an aggro and don't have any gadgets, you have Robo Retreat to get you the hell out of there, and you can keep that along with dealing so much damage. Like, I feel like that could be a crazy combo because it's going to be very hard to kill Rico when he's got it. And then he can just constantly spam his attack, dealing insane amount of damages because he's got the damage gear, which he could use, and also a Super Bouncy star power. So I actually think this could be a deadly synergy, and I'm actually going to put Rico in the A tier as well. Next up, we've got Daryl. And Daryl has 2 star powers. You've got Steel Hoops, which gives him a 25% shield after rolling. It's a good shield, but not great by any means. And then you've also got rolling reload, which gives him a rolling or reload speed buff. But you don't really need that with Daryl, to be honest. Like, it will definitely help him. But honestly, the way you play Daryl right now is you use both of his supers to get so much map control, deal damage, roll back out, and etc. And that definitely, I don't think it'll make the biggest of difference. So I'm going to put him in the C tier. Next up, we've got Penny. And Penny has two also star powers. Like, you've got heavy coffers, which makes it go from 3 gold things to 5 after. It's very good with the salty barrel gadget, but you really don't use Penny into aggression. You kind of use Penny to counter longer range because of the turret, but she can be whatever, because she usually gets countered by aggro. That's why you use the salty barrel gadget in the first place, to kind of make it more challenging. But then you've also got Master Blaster, which knocks back aggro, and her turret deals damage by placing it. But you want to put Penny's turret in a safe spot, right? So I really don't see that crazy much of a benefit from the star powers. Like, you don't really need Penny's star powers in general. So for me, it's D tier. Like, it's not really going to change her that much. It will change her a little bit, but not really. Next up, we've got Carl. And Carl has Power Throw and Protective Pirouette. So every time he's going to super, he's going to take less damage, but he is also going to have a faster pickaxe, which is going to make it a lot easier to consistently hit shots. So I think that's a good thing for Carl. I don't think it's going to make the biggest of impact, but I definitely see a lot of potential here. So I'm going to put him in the B tier. Next up, we've got Jackie. And Jackie is kind of an interesting one, because you got Counter Crush, which the damage Jackie takes, she reduces it into a Groundbreaker attack that does 30% of the damage she takes. And then she also has Hardy Hard Hat, which gives her 20% more HP, basically. Now, they kind of contradict each other in a way, because since Jackie has more HP, she takes 20% less damage. If she has Counter Crush, she's going to revert that damage back less. But that does mean Jackie's going to be able to tank more damage, but also outputting more damage as well. So it's actually going to be very, very challenging to beat Jackie in a close-up 1v1. So for that reason, I would actually give her B tier. But the thing is, I wouldn't put her any higher, is because Counter Crush technically does get indirectly nerfed if Hardy Hard Hat is a thing. And then finally, for super rares, we've got Gus. And Gus has 2 decent star powers. You've got Health Bonanza, which gives them more HP for healing. But you also have Spear Animal, which the person who gets the shield from Gus gets a 25% damage boost. 2 decent star powers, but you don't really use the Ghost for the healing. You use the Ghost with the Cookie Popper gadget. And that, for my reason, brings him down to at least a C tier. If anything, he could be worse. Next up, we've got Bo. And Bo has Snare Bear and whatever the other one is called. I don't even remember what his star power is called. Circling Eagle. So he will have a permanent bush range, and also every time his mines will stun. The biggest problem right now, though, is that Bo's mines are super easy to avoid. And also, the Circling Eagle star power is only good on a few maps. It's only good on Snake Prairie, and it's only good really on like Double Swoosh and Canal Grande maybe. But that's really the only maps that come to my head. Sneaky Fields too. But you really only use the star power on Snake Prairie, and nobody likes Snake Prairie. So to be honest, Circling Eagle should be a base kit trait on Bo, or just completely reworked star power, because mechanically it doesn't make much sense. So I'm actually going to put Bo in the F tier. I really don't see much change in Bo with his star powers, because Bo mainly relies on his main attack. Next up, we've got Ems. And Ems has Bad Karma, which is an extra DPS the whole game, but also Hype, where she will get more healing from Super. And I absolutely think that this could be a pretty good combo, because you have the Ems' biggest problem is her damage output, but she also needs healing from the tanks, which is why majority of the players use Hype on her. But again, Ems lacks damage, so if she has more damage, she can shred through tanks more and heal more, which gives her more survivability. So I'm going to put her in the B tier. Next up, we have Stu, and this is going to be my first S tier, because Stu has Zero Drag, which gives him increased super range by a lot, but then Gatso Heal. Imagine that. Stu's going to be dashing all over the map with healing. He's going to be very, very challenging to counter, because Stu is very hard to hit with the Zero Drag star power, but then add the healing with that. Oh man, we've got an insane synergy right here. Tanks will never be able to approach him, And then sharpshooters will never be able to out DPS them. It's just simple as that. The only way you're going to be able to counter Stu is with spawners. But that is just a low bar, and Stu's going to have a field day. Next up, we have Piper. Another one that I'm really tempted to put in the S tier, because Piper has ambush. Every time Piper sits in a bush and deals and hits a shot, she deals a ton of extra damage. And then hitting that with snappy sniping, she gets more ammo. She's going to be sending out legitimately nukes onto the battlefield the whole game. I'm going to put it S tier. I don't care. Piper is going to be sending nukes the entire game. How the heck are you going to counter her? Because aggro can't counter her because of the goddamn auto-aimer gadget. And then her super will just, I don't know. It's going to be pretty much impossible to counter Piper in these metas unless she gets a nerf. Next up, we've got Pam. And Pam low-key has two bad star powers. You've got the Mama's Hug star power, which gives her a whopping 96 healing, I think it is, from every shot she hits, which Pam's shots are very inconsistent. And then her second star power makes her super deal damage. But you don't really use the super for damage. You use it to heal. So I honestly think Pam gets like little to no benefit here. But I don't think she's F tier, but D tier is the highest I can go with Pam. Next up, we've got Frank. And Frank has two pretty good star powers. He'll have an extra HP the whole match, along with the ability to deal a lot of extra damage with the Power Grab star power. Now, you have to activate that Power Grab star power, but with Frank, that's not that hard to do because it's not that hard to confirm a kill with him at this point. So for me, I see potential, so I'll put him in the B tier. Next up, we've got BB. And BB has two good star powers, in my opinion. She's going to have home run and batting sets. So once she has her bar full, she'll have extra movement speed along with a shield. So, and I feel like majority of the time, that's a very deadly combo because she's going to be able to close the gap while tanking more damage. I think this is going to be a great synergy for BB. I'm going to put her in the A tier. Next up, we've got B. And B, another one that I think is an underrated synergy right here. B with insta-B load. If she misses her 4K shot, not a problem. She'll get another one back. But along with the bonus benefit of having Honeycomb as the star power, she's basically going to have a shield twice unless she misses it. Or unless she hits it, and then goes back to her basic attack. But B shots, I mean, her projectile speed is pretty slow. So I actually could see this being pretty good. I don't think it's going to be very broken by any means, but I would definitely put her in at least the B tier. Next up, we have my favorite brawler, Nani, and both of Nani's star powers rely on her super, and I actually think it could be very strong because she has autofocus, where she can deal extra damage with Peep, but also if she throws her super in a bad spot, at least she's got Tempered Steel to at least protect her. So I think this will help her in really Bounty and Knockout. But if you use the Warp Blast gadget, that kind of contradicts the autofocus star power. So for that reason, I would have to bring her down. And for that reason, I'm going to have to put her in the C tier, because you really don't get much of benefit if you're using the Warp Blast. You're only going to benefit from Bounty and Knockout games, really. Next up, we've got Edgar. And Edgar has two whatever star powers. I don't really notice a difference. You've got Hard Landing, which gives them extra damage, and then Fisticuff, which gives them extra healing. It's nothing major on both, but it's a little bit of synergy on both. So for that reason, I'll put them in at least the C tier. Next up, we have Griff. And Griff, I think, is going to be a very underrated one because you've got the constant healing with his Business Resilience star power, but also with the Keep the Change star power, you're going to be able to spam out shots. And I mean spam shots. Tanks are never going to get close to Griff without being insta-killed. Sharpshooters can still counter Griff with a range, but he does have the wall break gadget. So the potential is there, though. And I'm going to put him in the B tier just because of it. Next up, we have Grom. And I have to give Grom F tier. Why? Because his first star power sucks. It is useless. He's only going to have the second star power that does anything. You never want to hold on to Grom super, ever. So that just is one of the worst star powers in the game in general. And because of that, I have to put her in the F tier. Same with the next brawler, Bonnie. Bonnie is only going to benefit from one star power. Her Wisdom Tooth star power sucks. It gives her no benefit whatsoever. So it's basically she only has one star power the whole game. So another brawler, it really isn't going to change whatsoever. Next up, we've got Gale. And Gale has two of the best star powers in the game. He's got Blustery Blow, which gives him a 1.25 second stun. So if anybody gets hit by a wall, they're pretty much going to die. But you also have Freezing Snow, which is another insanely good star power because Every time he hits an opponent, they're going to get slowed, allowing him to hit more shots. So combining two of the best star powers in the game is just going to have Gale basically kill everything again. That's pretty much what he does in this meta and the last meta, ever since he's gotten his hypercharge. He's terrorized the meta, and he's going to terrorize it even more with both of these star powers combined. Next up, we have Colette. And Colette, oh, this one actually could be very powerful because you've got Push It, and then you've got Max Tax. So the thing about the Push It star power is every time she hits a Brawler, she's guaranteed to hit her second attack as well, which will benefit Max Tax and give her an even stronger shield. So if she hits multiple Brawlers and the high save, not only is she going to get her super back, but she's also going to have a very powerful shield. She's going to be very, very challenging to kill. And I'm actually going to give her S tier as well. I know I'm putting a lot of people in the S tier right now. I have to. This is just extremely broken synergies if you logically think about it. Next up, we have Belle. Belle has positive feedback, one of the better star powers in the game, but you also have Grounded, one of the worst star powers in the game still. Grounded does give a little bit of value since it lasts for 5 seconds and along with a permanent 20% shield, but it is not going to change Belle that much, so I'm just going to give her D tier. Next up, we have Ash. And Ash, really, I don't notice really either of his star powers. His first fast star power is really good because if you do hit that attack, he gets a lot of rage. And also, because of his Mad as Heck star power, he gets faster reload speed, allowing him to deal more DPS. But Ash right now is just a forgotten brawler that just doesn't exist into the game. And for that reason alone, I'm just going to put him in the D tier. Because even if he had both star powers, it's not going to change Ash that much. There's no way. Next up, we have Lola. And Lola has two good star powers. You got Improvise, which gives her pretty much a 35% damage boost all of the time because you usually are down to that last ammo piece when you use Lola, especially in Heist. You just want to deal that extra damage. But if you throw the Ego behind her, not only does she deal extra damage, but she also gets healing with the Sealed of the Kiss star power, which is actually a pretty underrated star power. So I think combined, it could be a very strong synergy. So I'll put her in the B tier. Next up, we have Sam. Oh, poor Sam. He has one of the best star powers in the game, and arguably the worst star power in the game. So, Sam will get still, even if he has both star powers, he does not benefit from his remote recharge star power. Ever! So, there's just no point in having Sam. He only has Hardy Recovery, and you need that star power to play Sam, but this is both star power. So, Sam won't change as a brawler at all. Next up, we have Mandy, and Mandy needs the In My Sight star power. And if she has that, she's going to have, I think it's a 40% shield right now with the Hard Candy star power. She's going to have a 40% shield almost the entire game, basically, because majority of the time when you play Mandy, you want to stand still and shoot those shots because it's so much easier to hit your shots with that In My Sight star power. That plus a 40% shield, we got an insane synergy right there. So I'm going to put her in the A tier. You could argue S tier, but I don't think it's extremely broken synergies because the way you play Mandy right now, you really don't need the shield because you outrange everybody. Next up, we have Maisie. And Maisie has Tremors, which is a really good star power. And she also has Pinpoint Precision, which gives her an extra 20% damage, but that's only if you hit the thing at max range. And with Maisie, majority of the time, that does not happen. Now, with the Tremor star power, it will happen, but Maisie deals a lot of damage as is right now. So I really don't think it's going to make the biggest of difference. So I'm going to put her in the D tier. I think it's really not going to change. Next up, we have Hank. And Hank low-key has two bad star powers. It's Gonna Blow got nerfed. And it's still a decent star power, but it's nowhere near as good. And Hank's other star power is one of the worst in the game. So he has to be in the F tier because he's not going to benefit really at all from this. Next up, we've got Pearl. And Pearl has two good star powers in my opinion. Especially one combining. When Pearl charges up her heat, she's going to get the shield, which is how you play Pearl really in any meta that she's came out, is you just wait for that heat to build up. But if you use her super on an aggro, she's only going to lose half of it, which is going to be able to get her shield right back up. So I actually think this is a perfect synergy for Pearl. So I'm going to give her B tier at least. You could argue A tier. Next up, you've got Larry and Lottery, who are just one of the most broken brawlers ever put into the game, and they continue to receive nerfs, but just don't anything. And that's because they have two pretty good star powers. They both have already been nerfed, but they're still two good star powers. You've got Protocol Protect, which gives Larry basically an extra shield because Laurie will take some of that damage. But then you've also got Protocol Assist. When Laurie hits an attack, Larry will benefit. Larry and Laurie's biggest counter is definitely aggression. But with the Protocol Assist star power, he could somewhat deal with it and the gadget. But then giving Laurie, reverting the damage to some of it to him, they're going to be impossible to kill. Like, they're already really hard to kill. So I'm going to put him in the A tier. It's just, what the heck. Next up, we have Angelo, who has... I don't even know what the star power is called, but he's got the healing star power. Why can I not think of the name right now? I have no idea what the heck it's called. Empower, that's what it is. Empower, which is absolutely needed to play Angelo. But then you also have Flow, which will give him more movement speed over water, which I don't think it makes a big difference. It's huge, considering Angelo has a very fast movement speed, as is already. But it's only good on maps with water, which isn't that many. So I don't think Angelo really is going to benefit that much. So I'll put him in the D tier because he definitely will get a benefit on maps with water, but not really. Next up, we have Barry, and Barry has a really good star power and then a really bad star power. All his other star power does is it makes his first projectile that hits the ground deal 20% more damage. It's good, not great. Like, it's going to make the slightest of difference. The way you play Barry right now is you use him for the healing and just pretty much keep the team alive. You don't really use him for damage. On to the Mythic Brawlers now. We have a lot of Mythic Brawlers. Starting off with Mortis, who has two decent star powers. They're not crazy by any means, but Creepy Harvest, every time Mortis gets a kill, which is very easy to do with his Hypercharge, he's going to get healing. And then he also has Coil Snake, which is going to be able to get his long dash even more. So Mortis is going to be near enough impossible to kill, basically. So for that reason, I'm going to put him in the A tier. I just think it's good. Mortis is already one of the best brawlers in the game with his Hypercharge. Combine that with Creepy Harvest, he's just going to be healing off of everything. How are you going to stop him? You really can't. Next up, we've got Terra. And Terra has 2 star powers that rely off her super, and they're okay star powers. They're not great star powers by any means, but you have one that will go over and attack a player, but then you also have one that will heal. So you'll have to kill both of the pets, which I think could be really good, honestly. I don't think it's going to be great, but I'll put her in the C tier. Like, it's not going to be that much of a change. Next up, we have Gene, and Gene has 2 alright star powers. Like, he has Magic Puffs, which is a great star power. And he will be able to heal all of his teammates at all times. And then you've got Spirit Slap, which will give Gene super damage. And combine that with the Hypercharge, it's actually pretty good. So Gene will actually have... The way you play Gene is you'll be able to heal teammates, but also if you're screwed in a situation where you can't, you'll at least have Spirit Slap to give you a little bit of damage to help confirm a kill. Because that's the problem with Gene right now, is it's kind of challenging to get a kill. He doesn't do that great of damage, but at least with Spirit Slap, he deals a bit extra damage, so I'll put him in the C tier. Next up, we have Max, and Max has two really good star powers. They both rely based on just her moving, and you're moving all the time. There's no reason you're going to stop moving. So both of these star powers benefit just from the same trait. So I'm going to put her in the B tier. She's always going to have supercharging, but she's always going to have extra ammo as well, because she's going to be charging her super and reloading faster just by moving. That's it. Next up, you've got Mr. P. And Mr. P has one star power and then another okay star power. Like, the first star power, every 4 seconds, Mr. P's bounce attack, it deals extra damage. Yippee. It should be, honestly, after every attack, the way you play Mr. P, because that second attack is so easy to dodge most of the time. And then his second star power gives his porters extra damage and extra HP. Most of the time, they don't really deal the damage. They just give the extra HP. So I'm not going to see that big of a change. So I'm going to put him in the D tier. Next up, we have Sprout. One that I actually think could be very strong. Sprout will constantly have that 5-second overgrowth where he'll have attack that is bigger and almost is a guaranteed hit every time. Along with the shield, just by standing in a bush for like the whole game. So I see great synergy here, and I'm going to put Sprout in the A tier. It's going to be a lot harder to kill him, especially with attacks that are going to be able to hit him. Next up, we have Byron, and Byron has 2 really good star powers, in my opinion. You have Injection, which will allow him to pierce through his teammates and his enemies, which is a good star power, but most of the time you use melees, which will prevent the enemy from healing up. You just auto-aim that super, and eventually they're going to die. Usually you can use Byron's super to finish off the kill, but most of the time when you have Byron, you just want to throw that super out right away. And if you hit the super, which if you auto-aim Byron's super, you're going to hit it basically every time unless they use some kind of mobility to escape it. But you're going to hit it, and that's guaranteed value from the melee star power right there, just by auto-aiming it. So I think Byron has two really good star powers, and I'm going to put him in the B tier. Next up, we've got Squeak, and Squeak has two pretty good star powers as well. Chain Reaction gives him a permanent damage buff, and then Sticky Situation, or whatever the heck it's called, whatever, I don't know what the second star power is called name-wise, but gives him a slow for every super he hits, and hitting Squeak super, especially with this hypercharge, isn't that difficult. It's not easy, but it is not that challenging. So for me, I'll put him in the B tier as well. I see good synergy. Next up, we've got Lou. And Lou has a really good star power in Hypothermia, but Super Cool kind of is not that great. Super Cool gives the healing, or the freezing time over a super go 33% faster. You really don't notice that in game. Like, it's good, but it's, I don't know. That star power just to me isn't that great. But I'll put him in the D tier because there will at least be a bit of benefit. Next up we have Ruffs, and Ruffs has field promotion, which never really is used. It's only used in cheesy situations, and right now that's just not great because Ruffs as a brawler kind of sucks. And then his other star power is really good because it gives him an extra damage and also the ability to break open the map. But you really, sometimes you don't want to open up the map with Chrono Ruffs because his shots bounce, and that's what helps him as a brawler. So it kind of de-benefits, but I'm going to put him in the C tier because at least you can do some really cheesy plays with extra damage and the ability to wall break key points. So next up we have Buzz, and oh boy, Buzz is a scary one because Buzz will have a permanent buff to his eyes sharp the whole game, but even if he hits a close range super, that's a half-second stun. So he's going to have 1 second stuns at least, allowing him to chain supers non-stop. It's going to be really hard to deal with Buzz. Now, the only drawback to it is that he's not S tier. And because he has to hit the super, and at max range, you're going to get the full stun anyways. But at minimum range, at least he will get a second stun, allowing him to counter anything aggro if he's vulnerable. Next up we have Fang, another one that low-key scares me because Fang has fresh kicks and divine soul. So Fang will always take a little bit less damage, but also going to be able to get his super back every time he gets a kill, which the way you play Fang, especially if he has more HP, not going to be that challenging to do. So another great synergy. I'm going to put him in the A tier as well. Next up we have Eve. Eve has two whatever star powers, they're okay. You've got with a reverse one where it starts with her big egg, goes to the small egg, but then you also have a happy surprise, and every time Eve hits that big egg, she spawns a hatchling. So, and that's obviously with a 5-second cooldown, but since the big egg is first, it actually is going to be a lot easier to connect with that big egg, which is going to mean that she's going to be able to get a happy surprise almost guaranteed every single time. So, because of that, it's a decent synergy. So I'm going to put her at least in the B tier. You could even say A tier. I won't even be upset. Next up, we have Simp Brawler Janet. And Janet has an essential star power and then a star power that who cares. Like, when she's in the air, she can see in bushes. And that is a great feature, but majority of the time, you don't want to play aggressive with Janet. Janet is more of a passive brawler than an aggression brawler. And you could play aggro with the backstage pass gadget, but that's not really how you play Janet right now. She's a good counter to throwers, but that's what her super's for. And most of the time, you don't need to see the whole bushes. Now, it can have some use cases, but you need vocal warm-up, and at least you'll have it. So, I'll give her a C tier. Next up, we have Otis, and Otis has an essential star power with ink refills, which gives him that 4th projectile, which gives him more damage and a faster supercharge rate. But every time Otis lands his super, instead of lasting for 3 seconds, it will last for 4 seconds. So the enemy will be muted for an extra second, allowing Otis to guarantee the kill even more than it already was guaranteed. Not going to make that much of a difference, though, so I'll put him in the C tier as well. Next up, we have Buster. Buster Loki has 2 really bad star powers. I'm not going to lie. His first star power is good. if the teammates are in a circle, which, yes, that is a thing synergy-wise a lot of the time. But most of the time, when Buster has his stupor, you don't really play in a lane anymore, so I don't really see that much of a benefit with that star power. And then his other star power is good because it gives him the ability to cancel out almost everything once he uses a super and tank a little bit less damage. But it's not like, oh my god, this star power is so good, wow. So for me, I don't think Buster would really change. He's really a really good brawler as is right now. So I'll put him in the D tier, but it's not really going to change that much. Next up, we've got Gray, and Gray has 2 decent star powers. He's got fake injury, which will give him less damage on the first hit, and pair that with the shield gear. It's really strong, and then you've got the other star power, which will give him healing every time he uses a super or his teammates. And it's going to be a lot harder to kill Gray, so I don't think it's game-breaking by any means, so I'll put him in the C tier. Next up, we have RT's star powers, and RT has quick maths and recording. So his marks will last for 3 seconds longer the whole time, which will be 8 seconds in total. And then he also will have a permanent shield when he uses that as well. But synergy-wise, I don't think it's really going to work that much. So I'm going to put him in the D tier. It's not F tier, but it's really not that great. Next up, we have Willow. And Willow also has kind of 2 who cares star powers. She's got Love is Blind, or whatever the heck the star power is called. I think it's called Love is Blind or something like that. But every time she hits her main attack, the enemy's reload speed is 33% slower. But you don't really notice that too much. Or no, I think it's 25% slower. And then the other star power, every time Willow hits the super, the enemy she has controlled is 33% faster. Whatever. Like, Willow, D tier. Like, it'll be somewhat of a change, but nothing, who cares. Next up, we have Doug. And Doug has a decent star power where he can heal, but he also has a star power which gives him extra movement speed every time he uses a super. If Doug can get a super, I see the synergy, and I would put him in the B tier. But Doug really can't get super. And for that reason, I have to put him in the D tier, because that star power benefits from his super, and you can't get super with Doug a lot of the time. So you could argue C tier. I'm putting him in the D tier just because Doug as a brawler sucks. Next up, we have Chuck. And Chuck, I actually think could be a very good one because Chuck will have 4 posts, but every time he hits a brawler, he'll steal one of their ammo with his own, which gives him a little bit more DPS, but the benefit, though, is that the enemy has one less ammo to deal with to kill Chuck. So, synergy-wise, it's great, but most of the time you don't hit an opponent with Chuck's super. You play Chuck in Heist. You really don't play Chuck anywhere else. But synergy-wise, it's aight. Next up, you've got Charlie. And Charlie has 2 whatever star powers. The first star power was good, but then they nerfed it, and it's aight. It's good against tanks, but that's kind of it. And then her second star power, most of the time, I don't get much value from it. But it's a good star power, though. So both of them, they're right. They both benefit from her super, however, and her super takes a long time to get now. So I'm going to have to put her in the D tier because Charlie just right now takes too long to get her super, and she's not really going to benefit that much from both star powers at this point. Next up, we've got Miko. And Miko has one of the better star powers in the game that he really needs, and his other star power is very good in Heist, which Miko really shouldn't be played in Heist, but it is very good because it deals a lot of extra damage, and it's good for box ramping up. So, decent synergy, but it's not going to change Miko drastically much. So, I'll put him in the C tier, but that's as high as I'm going to go. Next up, we have Melody, and Melody has one of the best star powers in the game, and the notes giving her the movement speed. And then her other star power just makes her notes last 2 seconds longer. Like, who cares? 2 seconds? Big whoop-de-doo. All I gotta do is hit a note, and I'll get the note back anyways. So, whatever. I don't really think Melody's going to change that much, so I'm going to put her in the D tier. Next up, we have Lily. And Lily has 2 really good star powers, because getting Lily's super, especially with the Vanish gadget, is relatively easy. But then also, if she gets in the range, she's going to have a movement speed buff pretty much the whole time. So that she has 2 star powers that pretty much benefit each other and allow her to just shred through the opponents while avoiding a lot of damage. So for me, I'm going to put her in the B tier. I think there's a lot of good potential there. And then finally, we have Clancy. And I think Clancy could be devastating because his second star power is really, really underrated in my opinion. The only reason I don't use it is stage 1 Clancy sucks. So at least I have tokens to get to stage 2 as fast as possible. But once he gets to stage 2, then he's a little more of a threat. So I think both star powers combined, he can be very, very deadly because he's going to constantly be spamming out main attacks and then just cycling through supers. So I could see a very deadly combo with Clancy. Finally, we have the legendary Brawler, starting off with Spike. Imagine Spike with the whole game with Curveball and also being able to heal with Fertilize. I could see Spike being very strong because Spike can just throw the super on himself, pretty much heal up, and then keep throwing curveball attacks, and just keep pretty much blocking off choke points while healing himself and countering the enemies. So I see good potential here, so I'm going to put him in the B tier. Next up we have Crow, and Crow has 2 good star powers as well. Imagine with Carry on Crow and Extra Toxic, like he's going to be dealing more damage to the Brawler, but also receiving less damage. So another decent combo. So I'm going to put him in the B tier as well. Leon. Leon. He's going to be insanely fast in his super, but also being able to heal with Invisi-Heal, that's dumb broken. Especially compare that with his Hypercharge. You're not going to be able to kill him. It's going to be absolutely impossible. He's going to shred you to pieces or run up to the next Brawler with a Hypercharge. Oh boy, this could absolutely be scary. The biggest problem with Leon is getting his first super. But once he gets his first super, he will non-stop cycle. I think this could be game-breaking. S tier. Next up, we have Sandy. Sandy has 2, honestly, star powers that kind of benefit each other because he has Rude Sands, which will push the enemy out, but he also has Healing Winds, which will help him and his teammates, keeping them inside the Sandstorm. Not like he wouldn't stay in the Sandstorm anyways, but it's good because you can throw his super into enemy spawn area, or into the enemy zone, or whatever they're trying to do. Control that area, force them back while pushing yourself in there and receiving healing. Really, really good combo in my opinion, so I'm going to put him in the A tier. Next up we have Amber. And Amber has, I actually think Amber could be very, very strong here because Amber will have 2 puddles obviously on the ground, but she'll be able to charge her super by standing next to her super, which will also benefit her other star power and give her faster reload speed. Now, I don't really think it's that great because Amber, you just want to light up her puddles anyway, but it does help her with her 1 gadget. So I'll put her in the C tier, but I really don't think, I think her star powers are kind of lackluster. Next up we have Meg. And Meg could be a scary one because Meg has the shield star power and the damage star power with a knockback. And Meg, when she gets knocked out of mecha form, will just knock the enemy back, deal damage, but also get a shield for herself, pretty much making her more unkillable. And then she can go back into mecha form a lot easier, or just fend herself away of anything aggro. So, good combination. I don't think it's great by any means, but I'll put her in the B tier. Next up, we have Surge. Ooh, Surge could be a little bit scary because obviously when his shots hit a wall, it's good in my opinion, especially when you get to stage 4. It's going to be super hard to dodge, especially on very good choke points. And he's going to be able to keep level 2. I think this could be very, very underrated, so I'm going to put him in the A tier. Next up, we have Chester. Oh, poor Chester. I have to put him in the F tier. His second star power does literally nothing. It's the most useless star power in the whole game. And for that reason alone, he's F tier. Next up, we've got Cordelius. And Cordelius is a really good brawler. Cordelius has two good star powers. He has one that gives him extra DPS the whole time, but he also has another star power which gives him the ability to heal and create plays. So I think combined synergy-wise is very strong. I will put him in the B tier. Next up, we have Kit, and Kit's star powers contradict each other, and this is why having them both in the same game will do absolutely nothing. The only game mode that will benefit him is Duo Showdown. But other than that, both of his star powers suck, because you can only use 1 star power in Showdown and the other star power in 3v3. The only game mode that will be able to be used in both is Duo Showdown. But yet, who cares? Because it's one game mode that's not even in competitive play. So for that reason, he has to be in the F tier. Oh, poor Kit. Next up, we have Draco, and Draco has his first star power, which kind of makes it work like... I actually don't even remember what his first star power does. I'm not even going to lie. I'm pretty sure after a certain amount of... I don't even know what does his first star power even do? Hold on a second. Because obviously I know Draco's second star power. His second star power gives him 2,750 healing, which is a lot of healing, but I need to really click. What the heck does his first star power do? Okay, yeah, okay, okay, it is what it is. It is what I thought it was, but yeah. Every time Draco hits his attack at maximum range after every 5 seconds, they'll kind of get, like, the target he hits will get the bell super on them, which gives more damage. So I actually think it could be a good combo, but I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. Next up, we have Mo. And Mo needs his first star power for the DPS, but his second star power really doesn't do anything besides make his drill faster. But hitting his drill is already easy as hell anyways, so whatever, it doesn't make that much of a difference. And lastly, we have Kenji. Kenji will have a shield that gives a 90% buff the whole game, along with extended super range. Yeah, I'm scared. So I'm putting Kenji in the A tier. And yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know in the comments. Agree, disagree, anything that should go higher, anything should go lower, and your suggestions for other video ideas. But that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you next time.